We don't need to do anything there. For the setup, we're not going to do anything there because you have one set up by default when you create a new CAM project. So we're going to use that. And that orientation setup is on the XY plane. You can see the arrows here for X and the Y. And down here, you got a little toggle here where you can turn off the machining coordinate system. Okay. So by default, the machining coordinate system is aligned with the world origin. So we can just leave it off or on. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So for the stock, we are going to create some stock. You got to have stock to machine. Well, in 2-axis, you don't really have to have the stock, but if you're going to reference your depths based on the stock, you need to define your stock. So let's go ahead and we're going to just create a simple box stock. And I have dimensions already populated here. The stock that we're going to use is 23 inches by 20 inches by 3/4 or 3/8 of an inch, sorry, 3/8 of an inch thick. This is aluminum plate. And what this is basically is an instrument panel, a prototype of an instrument panel, and it's going to be just machined out of a 3/8 sheet of aluminum. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pick OK. Now, there's one thing here that you might want to pay attention to, this checkbox for ignore wireframes. If you want to create your stock based on your drawing, you need to have this, we're going to have that unchecked. Okay. We'll pick OK. Let's turn the stock on. Okay, so we have our stock turned on. As you can see, it extends past the drawing. Okay, and here it is over here in our elevation view. Okay, now I have the stock a different color. Let's go talk about the CAM preferences right here real quick. We're not going to use that. Here's our stock. I have changed the stock color. From the default color, I've changed it to a dark blue. Okay, our cut stock doesn't really matter because we're going to be using different colors for different operation types. For our edges, our silhouette edges and sharp edges, I have changed this to a lighter blue so you can see them real good on top of the darker stock. And I've got these 2 checkboxes checked to display these edges. Okay, cutting tools, I have those set to different colors. For machining, you might want to change this all the way to fine. This is really not going to come into play a whole lot because we're not doing any 3-axis. Down here, let's look at what else we got here. Okay, I've got my toolpath visibility thickness set to 2 so that they're a little bit brighter so I can see them a lot better. Simulation, we have it set to fine, transparency set, and that's really all we really need. Okay, there's one thing that I did not do. Let's go. Let me save this because I want to make sure we align this stock with our XY plane. And what we're going to be doing here is our drawing lies on the top of the stock. Okay, so you can see, maybe you see that drawing a little bit there at the top. So you can align the stock with the top. In other words, align it with the geometry on the top of the stock, the geometry on the bottom of the stock, whichever makes more sense to you for making sure you understand the cut depths. I have it set to the top because it seems to be a little bit easier for understanding your cut depth. So if this is the 0 is at the top, you know, it's pretty easy to understand how deep you're going. Okay, so I have it set to top for Z alignment, and I have it set to center in the X and the Y. Okay, so let's go back into our facing operation. So the tool, beads and speeds, clearance plane, and the roughing operations, we're going to, the tolerance can be anything because we're using a large face mill. The tolerance in 2-axis only applies in the X and the Y direction, not necessarily to the depth. Okay, so we're going to leave that set to 01. We're not going to leave any stock because we're cutting all the way off the edges of stock material. We're going to do an island offset cut pattern, a mixed cut direction. We actually can increase this a little bit for the offset because we're using a large cutter. Okay, for roughing and the cut levels,